Pride prevents many from seeking help. Yet food banks report surging demand from full-time workers who never imagined needing assistance. Parents trade comfort for survival, choosing which meals to skip, which snacks to eliminate, and which luxuries, once considered basic, to forego entirely. These are not stories of poverty in the traditional sense. These are stories of invisible hunger among people who work, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. The emotional toll is staggering. Stress, anxiety, and the quiet humiliation of not being able to provide basic nutrition for one's family. Families live with the constant calculation of survival math. One meal at a time, one grocery trip at a time. These are the human faces of America's silent crisis. What is happening in states like Washington, Mississippi, Nevada, Texas, and California is more than a local problem. It is a warning sign for the nation. The invisible hunger gripping the middle class mirrors the early stages of economic collapse seen during the Great Depression. Unlike breadlines of the past, today's crisis hides behind grocery store aisles, credit card balances, and rationed meals, making it easy to ignore, but no less devastating. Rising food costs, stagnant wages, ballooning debt, and unaffordable housing are creating a nationwide pressure cooker. Middle-class families, once the backbone of America's economy, are increasingly forced to live paycheck to paycheck, making impossible choices between essentials like food, gas, and healthcare. This silent collapse has ripple effects that extend beyond individual households. Reduced consumer spending, rising credit defaults, and increased reliance on social safety nets constrain local economies and government budgets. The moral and social consequences are equally serious. Invisible hunger erodes community stability, weakens health outcomes, and undermines the promise of the American dream. If unaddressed, we could see widespread malnutrition, mental health crises, and long-term economic stagnation. Schools, hospitals, and essential services will be affected as their workers struggle to stay fed and financially solvent. The lesson is clear. This isn't a temporary spike in prices or a passing inconvenience. It is a structural crisis signaling the potential collapse of the middle-class safety net. America's prosperity depends on a thriving middle class. Ignoring these warning signs risks turning silent desperation into widespread social and economic turmoil. The Great Depression may have ended nearly a century ago, but its shadow is creeping back, one grocery receipt at a time. When Meghan Markle first entered the orbit of the York family, initial interactions were marked by careful politeness and cautious warmth. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, raised within the intricate framework of the royal system, knew precisely how to navigate both privilege and scrutiny. They understood the unspoken rules: when to speak, when to smile, and how to balance personal charm with public expectation. Having grown up observing their mother, Sarah Ferguson, endure decades of public judgment, the sisters were uniquely equipped to welcome newcomers while protecting themselves from potential pitfalls. At first, Meghan appeared to fit neatly within this framework. Conversations flowed easily, invitations were extended, and the usual courtesies of a new relationship were observed. Fergie, ever the careful observer, noted these early interactions with interest, recognizing both the potential and the precarity in the budding connection. Yet, beneath the surface of polite exchanges, subtle shifts began to emerge. Small gestures, once inconsequential, began to hint at distance. Polite warmth gave way to measured responses. Invitations that once sparked engagement were met with hesitation. By the time Meghan had fully stepped into her role beside Harry, these early tensions, though invisible to the public eye, had quietly laid the groundwork for future friction. A tension that Fergie understood long before headlines or palace whispers would bring it to light. As Meghan's position beside Prince Harry solidified, the distance between her and the York sisters began to widen noticeably. Conversations that were once engaging became shorter, more formal, stripped of the casual warmth that had characterized earlier encounters. Invitations that might have prompted genuine connection were ignored or delayed, and the subtle signals of growing coldness were impossible for Ferguson, attuned to the royal social dance, to miss. These small but deliberate shifts reflected a broader transformation in Meghan's relationships within the extended family. The moment that truly altered the trajectory of Sarah Ferguson and Meghan Markle's relationship wasn't captured by cameras or chronicled in tabloids. It happened in silence. Sources say Fergie reached out to Meghan one last time, seeking guidance, connection, or perhaps even a friendly voice in a world that could be unforgiving. For someone like Ferguson, accustomed to the complexities and occasional cruelties of royal life, this outreach was an attempt at bridging the widening gap. But Meghan's response, or lack thereof, was absolute. No calls, no texts, no acknowledgement. The deliberate silence spoke louder than any words ever could. To insiders, this act was not a casual oversight. It was a calculated distancing, a conscious decision to cut ties with a figure who had once been a part of her extended royal circle. For Fergie, the implications were immediate and profound. A former ally, someone who had once offered guidance or support, was now unequivocally excluded. The ghosting wasn't just personal, it was symbolic, a signal of the fractured dynamics within the family and the royal system itself. That single moment, sources insist, transformed Sarah Ferguson from a quiet observer into a determined critic, setting the stage for revelations that could challenge Meghan's carefully curated image and disrupt the narrative the public had come to accept. Sarah Ferguson's tell-all promises to be more than a memoir. It is shaping up to be a revelation capable of challenging the entire royal narrative surrounding Meghan Markle. Among the topics insiders suggest will appear are details about Meghan's lifestyle in elite social circles, which paint a very different picture from the polished fairy tale image presented to the world. These early connections, parties, and private introductions, Fergie observed firsthand, demonstrating ambition, strategy, and careful positioning. Equally striking are reports of Meghan's early interest in Prince Andrew, a connection that sources claim Ferguson quickly curtailed, preventing any missteps. Such moments, seemingly minor, carry long-lasting implications, sowing tension and quiet resentment that would fester within the extended family over time. Other revelations may include private jet trips facilitated by influential allies, the social advantages that accompanied her rise, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering that few outside the inner circle could witness. Even decisions affecting Harry's wedding, exclusions, invitations, and unspoken protocols could reveal the subtle dynamics that shaped the royal event. Together, these secrets threaten to reshape the public perception of Meghan's journey, from her carefully constructed image to the private reality that Ferguson has observed for years. What may seem like small details accumulate into a narrative capable of challenging both palace messaging and the story Meghan has worked tirelessly to control. Sarah Ferguson's forthcoming tell-all is not merely a memoir or a collection of anecdotes. It is shaping up as a strategic, formidable exposé with the power to reshape public perception of Meghan Markle. Unlike casual gossip or speculative reporting, Fergie possesses first-hand knowledge of the private circles Meghan navigated before stepping into royal life. She knows the doors that were opened, the introductions carefully arranged, and the social networks leveraged to facilitate Meghan's rise. Each observation, each encounter, carries context and weight that only someone entrenched in the royal world could understand. What makes Fergie particularly dangerous, sources say, is that she has nothing to lose. For decades, she has endured the scrutiny and judgment of both the public and the palace. She understands how the system operates, where the vulnerabilities lie, and which truths resonate beyond superficial headlines. This combination of insight, experience, and opportunity gives her unprecedented leverage. Those who underestimate Ferguson may do so at their peril. While Meghan carefully curates her public image, Fergie has a record of observing both the polished exterior and the cracks beneath. In the hands of someone who has survived scandal after scandal, those observations can transform into revelations that challenge not just an individual, but an entire narrative constructed by the palace. Fergie, insiders insist, could wield her story like a weapon, and few are prepared for its impact. Inside Buckingham Palace, Fergie's anticipated tell-all has triggered quiet but deliberate calculations. Sources describe a measured approach, silence in public, careful negotiation behind the scenes, and subtle damage control to mitigate potential fallout. Every palace move is strategic, balancing the protection of the institution with the realities of an insider ready to speak openly. Interestingly, different members of the royal family are reportedly approaching the situation in contrasting ways. King Charles is said to be willing to negotiate with Ferguson, offering concessions or reassurances to temper potential revelations. His goal is to prevent the narrative from destabilizing the monarchy or exposing sensitive dynamics within the family. Prince William, by contrast, maintains a steady posture, unbending and unaffected publicly, relying on the fact that Fergie's memories and connections do not directly threaten him. In this careful orchestration, insiders warn that Meghan herself could become collateral. If Ferguson's revelations go public, the palace may calculate that any fallout would land on Meghan's image rather than the crown, using strategy to protect the institution at her expense. This unseen tension, carefully managed behind closed doors, illustrates that the story is not just about individuals, it is about power, legacy, and the silent strategies that govern the royal world, far beyond what the public ever sees. Across the ocean, in a historic house steeped in memories and old connections, Sarah Ferguson begins to write. This is not a project born of anger alone, nor a pursuit motivated solely by financial gain. It is, sources say, the first time in decades that Fergie has the freedom to speak openly, to lift the curtain on observations accumulated over years of proximity to royalty and society's most influential circles. Every memory, every encounter, every private moment she witnessed now forms part of a narrative that could challenge the carefully constructed image of Meghan Markle. The power behind Ferguson's words comes not from sensationalism, but from survival and insight. She has endured humiliation, scandal, and scrutiny, learning the rhythm of the royal world and the subtleties that outsiders rarely perceive. Fergie's account promises to reveal the private truths that contrast sharply with the polished public image Meghan has cultivated. Insiders anticipate that the potential fallout could be significant. The timing, the details, and the credibility of Fergie's perspective converge into a story with the power to shake both public perception and institutional strategy. As she writes, the storm gathers quietly but relentlessly, poised to illuminate hidden tensions, expose long-ignored dynamics, and leave the world reconsidering what it thought it knew about Meghan Markle and her rise within the royal sphere.